Welcome to Snooze with Sam. Now before this story begins, I'd really like to thank every single one of you who listens to my sleep stories. It's been a wonderful year, and it's been amazing to watch the channels grow and help me to sustain myself and my loved ones over the past year. I cannot wait for the future of these stories and would be so happy if I could one day make creating these for you my full-time commitment. I cannot describe how wonderful that would be, I really mean that. So with this in mind, I would like to briefly and openly talk to you all, especially those who listen on Spotify. Now I hope you can appreciate why. I've seen wonderful, exciting growth in listens on both YouTube and Spotify in the last while. Again, I cannot thank you enough. And there are a similar number of listens per channel. The catch is, however, that Spotify does not earn me anything in the UK, and YouTube does. So basically what I am humbly requesting is that if it was possible for any Spotify listeners, you might consider subscribing and listening on YouTube instead. It would be helping me to no end. Other benefits of YouTube are that stories are uploaded around 3 weeks ahead of Spotify. There are only adverts at the beginning, not any through or at the end. The screen does go black after a few minutes, so you don't have to worry about the light keeping you up. And lastly, you can comment on the videos, and I do reply to them all, and I've met some very lovely people through it. So even if a fraction of you did, it would allow me to grow the channel faster. It would allow me to make Snooze with Sam even more of a focus in my daily life, and ultimately, it would help my loved ones have a better quality of life. But most of all, it would allow me to create even more better stories for you. And that's what excites me the most. I love to create, everyone would tell you that. Now, I can only imagine what would happen if everyone listened on YouTube. Anyway, again, finally, thank you all for every single listen, and please do continue to listen on Spotify if that's your medium, please do. It's all greatly appreciated and I'm so flattered. My gratitude, appreciation and love goes out to you all. I cannot wait for what the future holds, and I've got you all to thank for it. So, as always, lie back, take a deep breath, and enjoy this story. This story is called The Endless Beach. Your eyes looked upon a watercolour. The sky, the sea, the sand beneath your boots, the land to your left. Every part of your surrounding geography burst with a wash of painty hues. A myriad of purples, pinks, and oranges blended one into the other, barely discernible as one from the other. It was that time of the evening where light seemed to stand still. The sun had set, and the light was so soft and even, you felt your eyes relax a little, now almost widening to let more light in. On the horizon where the sun had momentarily been, the sky was luminous from the remaining glow. Each and every cloud to the northwest clung on tightly to the fire which had just been doused. If you could attach a texture to the scenery, you would have likened it to a local cashmere made of the finest goat wool, so delicate to the touch, but deep down there is a ruggedness in its origins. The Western Isles were famous for their endless sandy beaches. This is where you found yourself. Mile after mile of crystalline white, cut with ribbons of deeper mocha sand, went on and on, as if there was no finish. It was only where the sea eventually met up with the sky again, which suggested there was a point at which the beach gave up. But you could barely see it, so chose to assume it went into infinity. Beneath your slightly damp boots, little puddles of seawater accumulated from the wash of the tide. Wee spirals of sand, ejected by razor clams, populated the entire beach. It made you ponder the number of little creatures which must call this place home. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even more. You were mildly envious of their permanent surroundings. With each step, your feet sank just a little into the sand. Some places were firmer, some were softer, causing you to steady yourself occasionally when you sank just a bit more than you anticipated. Sometimes you stood on one spot and patted your feet in the sand, shifting the tiny grains about and creating a little sinkhole. It took all of one time and a resultantly damp set of toes to realise this game had a limit before your digits caught the cold. But of course it's nice to be like a child every now and again and not care too much. Between you and the water's edge, small seabirds ran about like little kids too, speeding from point to point. Their tiny, delicate feet just a blur in the evening light. Faint cheeps and squeaks of mutual chit-chat suggested they were on purposeful missions while zipping across the sands. However, you preferred to think that they were just enjoying this lovely evening, playing tag and just having fun with each other. Beyond them, the sea breathed with an energy more akin to drifting clouds. Little breakers crackled in the distance, but each one reached high up the beach, gliding frictionlessly over the mirror flat sand. They didn't wash back out. There was no residual energy for that, nor was the gradient of the beach steep enough. The water merely absorbed downwards into the sand on which it had stopped. Slow motion best described what it felt like to watch. You found it deeply relaxing. You watched it for minutes, subconsciously matching your breathing with the rhythms of the water. The sounds and sights of a place like this could be all the remedy you needed to calm the self and reset. Aside from it being obviously very beautiful, you felt like a small yet chaotic being in this world of tranquility. It made clear and reminded you just how noisy and intense your own thoughts could be. As soon as you found yourself surrounded by such peace and solitude, this was never more evident. But allowing yourself to breathe with the patterns of your surroundings, close your eyes and listen to the lack of noise. Even smell each individual fragrance you could possibly identify. The salt water, the blossoming heather, the fresh beach reeds and grasses. All of this added up to create an undeniable sense of belonging. The truth is, we all have this sense deep down, but we find it easy to overpower it in the modern world. We deafen it with the bustle of a city, or noisy thoughts, or stresses of our own life's creation. And with these own thoughts, you felt an obligation to give yourself the respite that you need regularly. You deserve to feel at peace with your body and mind. The palette of colours had now deepened, almost without you realising. That phase of transition from sunset to dark happens surprisingly rapidly. But your eyes accustomed to the fading evening, leaving you in pleasant surprise at the slowly appearing stars above your head. Like a hole in the middle of the sky, a portal to the galaxy. It opened up to reveal the beginnings of the Milky Way. Towards the horizon in each direction, the haze was still thick enough to obscure any more visible stars. Above you, the little twinkles in the sky flickered and pulsed, as if alive, like tiny fairy lights on a Christmas tree. You walked further up the beach to a point where a freshwater stream crossed the sands. The stream having run down from the hills up to your left-hand side. On this evening, even the luscious green hills looked purple. The fresh water had meandered across the beach like a miniature Amazon river as seen from space. Great tributaries and water basins collected and dispersed like blood vessels of the earth. You imagined you were a giant looking down on this great river from high above. Watching the wee streams gently erode away the riverbanks and moving the sediment around. It was as if you were watching a time lapse of something much bigger. Like this time in fast motion, by the contrary. It reflected the sky, which was now a slightly paler shade of pink compared to the dusky grape musk purples of the sands. If it weren't for the movements and flow of the streams, you would have sworn you were staring right back at that watercolour painting. You noticed something new enter the equation. Something creeping again on the horizon, nestled between the sea and the clouds, as far as you could tell in the dim light. This thing was bright, radiant, luminous, and so cut through the evening murk like lemon juice through cream. The moon was rising, and the thin clouds created broken silhouettes of themselves against the backlight. The moon itself appeared disjointed and incomplete for the same reasons, with only small areas of it showing. If you had not seen the moon before, you would struggle to tell if it was round or spherical at all with this view. It slowly crawled up the wall of the sky, straining to emerge from its cloudy constraints, until finally it was in full view. A mostly waxing moon. It shone every bit as brightly as a full face. If you looked closely, you could make out the faint outline of the dark side of the moon. A very subtly different shade of deep inky blue against the partially glowing night sky. The transition line from dark to light on the moon itself had always fascinated you. You could pick out the very textures of its surface. All of the rough craters, mountains, and scars left by millennia of meteors. It was a sublime sight in your current surroundings. And so you walked and walked still, bathed in a new lease of light along the endless beach. You would be quite content if it were to never end.